they're the terrorists.
Okay.
Or partially terrorists.
And
that standard of yours, and it's not just you, it's your country, it's your government, it's the entire Western political establishment, is the problem. It is the problem in our region.
And a problem
because you are choosing despots and you are choosing regimes that carry out ethnic cleansing as your allies because they serve your...
In this exchange, a British presenter tries to place Professor Seyed Mohammad Marandi on the defensive by framing the discussion around human rights. It is a familiar method: present Western power as the moral referee, isolate the official enemy, and leave the record of allied governments safely outside the conversation. Marandi refuses that framework entirely. Rather than answering within the boundaries set for him, he turns the scrutiny back toward the institutions delivering the lecture. He points to the contradiction of governments that condemn abuses abroad, while supplying authoritarian rulers, protecting systems of apartheid, and financing mass violence when it serves their strategic interests. The result is more than an uncomfortable television interview. It is a moment when the polished language used to justify decades of intervention is forced to collide with the conduct it was designed to conceal. The press is no longer examining a foreign adversary from a position of moral superiority. For once, it is being made to answer for the power it routinely protects. Before we roll the clip, take a moment to support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and turning on notifications so you never miss another breakdown. With that said, let's get straight into it.
The protests that are taking place, the latest round of protests, they seem to be pretty intense and pretty persistent, up to and including this latest tweet from post from the US president. What do you say is going on there? What do you say those protests are about?
Well, there are two issues here. One is that because of the US sanctions and European sanctions, basically because of Iran's policy against Israel,
what is Iran's policy against Israel?
Yes, because
the
whole sanction, Iran's position
against Israel,
Iran says that Israel is an apartheid state. It is not morally legitimate, and that Palestinians have the right to return, just like apartheid South Africa.
That it shouldn't exist.
And back then,
that it shouldn't exist. It's not. Is that
no,
what you mean?
as an apartheid entity, no.
But
apartheid should not exist anyway. When your government was
I'm just trying to get a sense from, because you're close to the Iranian regime, I want to get a sense of whether...
What does that mean exactly? I'm close to the Iranian regime. Is that how you introduce academics from your own country?
No. In the way that I know that I'm close in terms of having easy access to and contact with and conversations with members of the cabinet. That's all I meant. I didn't mean...
Would you call them the regime?
Well,
would you say it like the...
Do you want to go into that?
Yeah, sure. Well, what's the question?
Well, have there been regular democratic elections that?
No, you were talking about Israel.
Oh, okay. We'll go back.
Iran's position on Israel.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense of whether
Iran's position on Israel is identical to its position on apartheid South Africa. When your government was supporting the supremacist regime in South Africa, the Iranians were supporting the ANC and Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
The same logic applies to Palestine.
Right. So it's not the existence of Israel, it's the nature of this Israeli state. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly.
That Iran's supposed to.
The state could be called Palestine, it could be called Israel, it could be called Walt Disney, but as an apartheid state for Iran, this is not acceptable.
And isn't Iran something of an apartheid state, particularly if you're a woman?
Have you ever been to Iran?
No, but there's lots of countries I haven't been to that I know about, hear about, read about, speak to.
It's not an apartheid state. No, it's not an apartheid state.
Women are dragged off the street for not wearing the veil?
No, that's not true at all.
It is true.
Well, you can say it's true, but that doesn't make it a fact.
I think most people listening know that it is true.
I live in Iran. Many journalists come to Iran. Journalists that you can invite, Jewish journalist Max Blumenthal from the Grey Zone, invite him on your show. And he's been to Iran just recently for a couple of weeks. He went to different cities on his own with his wife, who's also a journalist. Ask him if any women have been dragged off the streets anywhere that he's been to.
So you're denying that the Iranian government forces women to wear the veil, the hijab?
Well, veil is one thing.
I know it is. That's why I corrected myself. And those that don't want to...
You mean the headscarf?
The headscarf. And those that don't want to cover their hair, it's trouble for them, isn't it?
No, that nothing
No?
happens to them. No, nothing happens to them. And some of my students on campus, in classrooms on campus, they don't wear headscarves. So I think
is your I'm just trying to get a sense, is your assertion that in Iran, in the last decade, and even more recently than that, not a single woman, particularly a protesting young woman, has been detained and in one case died in custody with wounds from beating because she had her hair short? You don't believe
You're
that
talking
happened?
No. Mahsa Amini had no wounds. There is no footage. There is footage of her, and in the footage, there is nothing that shows that she was beaten. She had a precondition. Yes, she was taken in, but she was not beaten. Or her dress. There is a law in Iran about a dress code, because whether you like it or not, they believe that the way in which the West promotes women is sexualization, commodification, objectification. So they'll have their own cultural boundaries, whether you agree with it or not.
Well, you've said to
whether
me
you agree with it or not.
Yeah.
It doesn't. That's one thing. But women being dragged off the streets in Tehran, I've never seen that happen myself.
No, but
this
that
is
doesn't
like
mean
when
it
they keep
hasn't
saying
happened, does it?
gays in Iran are executed. I've never seen a gay person in Iran executed.
But
this is sort
that doesn't
of the
mean it's
myth
never happened. Does it?
No.
Just because you haven't seen a woman being dragged off the streets doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
No, I'm not saying it's never happened.
And you are wrong
like
to
in
say,
London,
if I can just
like
say,
in
you are
London,
wrong
if
to
you
say
hold-
that Mahsa Amini had no injuries. She had physical injuries, including a skull fracture and brain edema.
No, she didn't. No.
Well, an independent
No, that's
medical
not-
analysis and a UN fact-finding mission determined that she did.
There was no UN fact-finding mission in Iran. Where are you getting this information? What was the name of the UN fact-finding mission team? The name of the person who did this?
I don't have that in front of me, but I can find
Yeah,
it for you.
of course.
But
You
you
can-
can
you
say
get
that
it
about
from
any
these-
statement that I make.
No, but the thing
And I
is
could
that
do
you
it
get
back
this,
to you.
No, because you can't, because the point is that you have to give me names. If I say in the UK, people are being arrested for saying no to genocide, for having a billboard in their hands, no to genocide, they're being arrested for that. I have to show footage of it happening. And I have to show the law saying that this is how it's done. And when you tell me that if you tell me, has a woman ever been dragged away, I'll say yes. If you say that have people been beaten on the streets by the police, I'd say yes. In protests and riots, it happens. Well, if you tell me innocent people have died in Iran in prisons, I'd say probably yes.
Well, it's interesting.
But when you tell, and I would say the same about your country as well. And I would say the same about your country. But in your country and in the West, the caricature of Iran is very far from reality. And the reason is because of your country's hatred for Iran, which has been ongoing for 45 years. If Iran was so deeply despised, then it should have collapsed by now, so long ago.
But when you say, you ask me,
then your government and your media is concerned about human rights in Iran.
Yeah.
Where you support Israel, not you, I mean your government, you support Israel, you help Israel in Gaza, you have the flights that go overhead.
We support the rights of Iranians as well. We support the rights of Iranians.
No, you don't. You actually are a country that tries to harm Iranians because you impose sanctions on ordinary Iranians. The maximum pressure sanctions. Do you think the maximum pressure sanctions hurt a government minister?
You know the reasons.
They're intended
you know the
to
reasons
make
for that.
ordinary people suffer.
You might not like it, but you know the reasons for that. I mean, can I just come back to you on one thing?
What are the reasons? Because since I don't like it, you should tell me. What are the reasons for the sanctions?
The reasons include the proxy terrorist activity that's been, well, I would argue, I'm sure you are going to disagree with me, but the proxy terrorist activity that Iran has been involved in for decades
What are these
now.
Who are
Hezbollah,
these
Hamas, others arming
Hezbollah
Syria.
So Hezbollah you consider as a terrorist organization, right?
In part.
No. In part?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well,
is it a terrorist organization?
In part.
Is it a terrorist
in the same way that the Republican movement in Northern Ireland was in part
No, in the same way
terroristic
that
and
your
in part
government is a
political.
terrorist organization in part. Your government is a terrorist organization.
Is that your view?
That doesn't make sense.
Is that your
Either
view?
you're a terrorist or you're not.
No, organizations can be partly terroristic and partly political. You know that.
Just for your information, Hezbollah was created out of the Israeli invasion of Lebanon. It was a creation of the occupation. Just like the ANC was a terrorist organization, and Nelson Mandela was a terrorist according to your government standards at the time, Hezbollah was created when the Israelis invaded Lebanon and took Beirut.
But you do know, surely, as an academic, that organizations can be terroristic and political and have wings which are both, and social as well. The Republican movement in Ireland certainly did.
So you're saying that the political wing of Hezbollah is not a terrorist organization?
It has connections to a terrorist organization, yeah, but it operates on different levels.
So it's not a terrorist organization?
In part, it is.
Look, I know you don't want to answer the question. From our perspective, Hezbollah is a national liberation organization that has recovered Lebanon and saved Lebanon from Israeli occupation and colonization. And Hezbollah's sin is that it supports the Palestinian people. Hezbollah has been resisting the Israeli regime, and it opposes the regime and the ethnic cleansing and the genocide. Your government, your media supports the genocide. You like Israel, you like what they do, and you consider them to be in your camp. Obviously, we have huge differences because Hezbollah has not carried out mass slaughter, and Israel has. And your government supports despots, countries that have zero elections, but they're not regimes.
But Hezbollah did carry out mass firing of missiles into Israel as well, just to report a fact back at you.
Israel invaded Lebanon multiple times. It took Beirut, and Israel bombs intentionally apartment blocks in Lebanon. Just today, it destroyed houses in southern Lebanon. Almost every day, it carries out assassinations.
I'm just making the point that the fire isn't just in one direction.
You're proving a point. You're proving a point that the Israeli regime, which carries out murder and slaughter, is normal, and it is not a terrorist organization. But Hezbollah, when it responds with far less fire capability and without killing all these civilians as the Israelis do.
Power rarely presents violence honestly. It dresses military aggression in the vocabulary of compassion, then asks the public to mistake strategic interest for moral duty. That is why Professor Marandi's intervention mattered. He was not merely contesting a presenter's argument, he was dismantling the ethical framework corporate media uses to make Western intervention appear humane. Audiences are repeatedly told that policy in the Middle East is motivated by concern for women, political prisoners, and oppressed communities. Marandi challenged that story by comparing those claims with the governments, armies, and institutions Western powers continue to support. The presenter's insistence on controlling the labels was central to the exchange. Within the approved media narrative, Israel must remain a liberal democracy while Hezbollah must be discussed only through the language of terrorism, regardless of how civilians are treated or how many are killed. Those definitions are not neutral descriptions. They determine which violence is condemned, which suffering is minimized, and which military actions are presented as legitimate. This language protects far more than a political narrative. It shields an entire economic system built around weapons sales, defense spending, and permanent conflict, acknowledging that Western governments finance an apartheid system, support attacks on residential areas, and enable the deprivation of civilians would expose the contradiction behind their moral claims. It would also make the enormous contracts benefiting arms manufacturers and political financiers much harder to defend. Human rights are therefore invoked selectively, not consistently. The priority is not universal dignity. It is maintaining strategic dominance, while ensuring that the industries profiting from war continue to prosper. Now examine where the money is moving. While television presenters perform outrage over Iran's internal policies, the defense industry continues collecting enormous rewards from the conflict. On 1st May 2026, the US State Department authorized more than $8.6 billion in fresh arms, sales to partners across the Middle East. Almost $1 billion of that total was allocated to laser-guided weapons intended for Israel. Western officials claim the authority to judge the rest of the world, yet they continue approving vast military packages for governments accused of inflicting devastating harm on civilians. That contradiction is becoming increasingly difficult for the public to ignore. Americans understand that a country cannot credibly present itself as the guardian of freedom while funding policies that destroy lives abroad. A national New York Times Siena college poll published on 18th May 2026 found that close to 2/3 of voters believed the administration was wrong to begin the war with Iran. Support for sending further financial or military assistance to Israel had also fallen to just 37%. The official narrative is losing its grip because people have examined the consequences for themselves. They have followed the spending, watched the destruction, and rejected the polished language used to make it all appear responsible. Professor Marandi demonstrated the response this moment demands. He refused to allow the institutions sustaining an enormous war economy to decide which facts could be spoken and which questions remained off limits. By applying their declared principles consistently, he revealed how quickly their moral case falls apart. Political leaders can no longer disguise domination as humanitarian concern without facing resistance. The language of freedom has been used for too long to conceal violence, protect power, and preserve profit. Once that contradiction is placed in full view, the establishment is left confronting the one thing it cannot easily manage, its own record.